Okay, wait. Look at that, guys. I got the sound on the first time. Hi, and welcome to the Monday Method. It's nice to be here, hanging out with you guys. I'm just jumping right in today because that's the mood that I'm in. We're gonna bring my friend, my friend Dan, into the show in just a little while. But in the meantime, we're doing this thing where we talk about the power of music and about songs that move you guys. And the weirdest thing is, I'm noticing that Facebook is auto captioning me. That's actually kind of great. That's like the first good thing I've seen Facebook do in a while. But all right. Today on that one song, let's talk about one of those songs for me. I am color blind. Coffee black and egg white. Pull me out from inside. I am ready. I am ready. I am ready. I am fine. I am covered in skin. No one gets to come in. Pull me out from inside. I am folded and unfolded and unfolding. I am color blind. Hi back there. Coffee black and egg white. Pull me out from inside. Yes. I am ready. I am ready. I am ready. I am fine. I am fine. I am fine. Yeah, for me, that's always going to be one of those songs, obviously. Well, Bill, there's also that you were there when that song became super important to me. You were there when I danced with my wife to that song. So obviously, yeah, it means a lot to me. And tonight we're gonna talk about different songs. We're gonna hear from you guys, and Dan and I are gonna kind of just dive in and talk about all the many different things that music do. As you guys hear a big huge sound from my computer that I don't want. Um, we're gonna talk about all the different things you guys bring up, what music does, what music can do, what music should do. Um, and hopefully we're going to land somewhere interesting. And we're going to have a chit chat about the power of one song. And yeah, it's gonna be interesting. So I'm getting ready to invite our friend into the chat in just a minute. But I'm curious if up front you guys have any thoughts about this, any questions you'd like to ask of me or of Dan May, who is a brilliant singer-songwriter and a fantastic storyteller as well. I'm just helping him get set up on his end. In his own words, he is technologically illiterate, and you know, we don't mind. All right, let's see. Music has had an incredible impact on my life, that's for sure. Alright, and that's fired off to Dan now. Hi to Peter Brown, Mariana Bonovich, Julia for watching, and anybody else watching over on Facebook. Please do share the stream. Over there as well. It's live in Red Tower Records on Facebook. And I actually think I need my glasses today, guys. Don't judge. I have a bit of a headache and need help. All right. For Bright first, and if Dan feels inclined. When did you... That's a great question, Joe. We'll hang on to that one for sure. That'll be asked pretty early on in the show. So let's start by, while we're waiting for Dan to log in. Thank you. Let's start by talking about him a little bit. Let's give you guys the rundown of today's guest. And in fact, let's also show you a little something of today's guest. So I'm going to stop that music. And we're going to let you guys... I'm going to let Dan introduce himself, sort of. This is a live performance by Dan from some time ago. Yes, I can. Can you hear me okay? All right, and let me see if I can't figure out why we're having some issues with the audio coming through, but that's not your problem. So give me a second to work on that. Um, to all of our friends watching, I don't know if you're hearing Dan respond to me right now, but we are experiencing some issues getting his audio to come through. Now, all right, so that's my mic coming through. Can you guys hear Dan? Sound off in the chat. Dan, say hi for us. All right, let's give them a second to sound off on whether or not they can hear that. Guys, sound off in the chat if you just heard Dan talking back to me, because we are experiencing some minor audio issues, and I can't tell. No, Doc, it's not that. I've got him locked completely. We're good there. All right, I have an idea. We're gonna try something. Okay, and then it's just there's so many pieces of software running simultaneously right now. Okay, Dan, talk for me.
Can you hear me?
Hey,
I'm
I
here.
think we've got.
One, two, three.
Yes, okay,
I'm
guys, it
here.
looks like
All
you
right.
can now hear our friend Dan, correct? So I should make it so that you can see him now as well. And I can do that by going like this, and then just full screening this. All right, and then we're gonna use gallery view so that you're not massive. Okay. I think that means that we've successfully got you on the air here, guys. Tell me if I'm wrong in the Twitch chat. They help me when we have technical issues. They're my spot squad. And it looks like we got some. Sounds like Dan is at the end of a tunnel, says Mary Urbanovich. But now we've got
I
sound from
am.
you.
I am at the end of a tunnel.
Well, aren't we all kind of at the end of a
It's the
tunnel?
COVID virus. It's a long tunnel. And
Yes.
there's a train coming the other way.
Yes. Oh my God, that's so true. Well, thank you so much for joining. For the people who are watching who don't know, Dan and I have sort of been kind of peripherally circling each other for years and communicating, via social media for years. But this will be our kind of our first protracted conversation, and I'm very happy that we finally get to do that because we had plans to go get pie together, and then everything kind of went crazy, and it didn't happen.
So I think I've had plans to go get pie with everybody, but yours and ours was serious.
Yeah, I
My
mean,
favorite
shouldn't
my
you?
pie place is closed. I don't know if you ever got a chance to go to Magpie before it closed or not,
I,
but
f- I did finally I did get some Magpie before Magpie closed, and that was like heartbreaking. I especially because speaking of the power of one song, you wrote a literal tribute to those pies in a song called Magpie, correct?
that is correct. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was. It's been a crowd pleaser. People like that song, and I have. It's kind of branded me as a pie lover. I've had even as recently as last week there was a doorbell rang and there was somebody at the door with a pie, dropping a
Well,
pie off, and so that's been
I
one of
mean,
the pro or positive results of being branded about pies. So it's been
so right
okay.
off the bat, we have a really unusual power of song, guys. If you write a song about pie, they'll bring you pie.
That's true. People come to my shows with pies and both outdoor and indoor. It's a nice thing because then the band and I get to have pie after the show and
Yeah,
uh,
I gotta decide on a food to write a song about so that I can get on that trend. That's
make sure it's
fantastic.
something you like.
Right, because otherwise you're stuck with it. So I'm gonna read out. This is what I always do. I always start by reading sort of the classic internet bio of one of my guests because I think those are fun, and because it's always like a little. When people do this to me, I always cringe a little bit, but it's a funny cringe, I think. So here we go, guys. Singer-songwriter Dan Mays. This is right from his website. Career path has taken more twists and turns than a corkscrew in a hurricane. He's worked as, and I love this list, by the way, I have a few in common. He has worked as a gravedigger, a television cameraman, a short order cook, a nuclear missile security guard, a gas station attendant, an ice cream truck driver, a delivery man, an amusement park worker, and a greenhouse laborer, and all of that was before he turned 25. Then he started studying music composition and ended up in opera. And how long were you working in that sphere, opera?
12 years.
Whew.
I was my last 4 years. I went to Ohio State for 4 years and studied. I started as a composition major because I was going for, I wanted to write music, and somebody heard my voice and encouraged me that there was an opera career waiting for me. And I'd never been to an listen to opera. You know, we had a small sampling of classical music when I was a kid. My parents had like a orchestra greatest hits thing, and I would stand in front of the mirror and conduct, but never opera. But so I gave it a shot, and it worked out. And after 4 years, I transferred from composition to vocal performance, sang opera there in Ohio, and
Wow.
then I got a scholarship to the Academy of Vocal Arts here in Philly for 4 years, which is the premier opera training center in the world. And then from there, it was I sang for 12 years professionally until I had to have vocal cord surgery.
And
And
and were you what was your part? What was your voice
I was
considered?
a bass,
Yeah.
bass baritone, and sang all some really cool roles. I like that because
Yeah.
oftentimes as a bass,
You get to be the villain, yeah.
that's fun. That's right. And I had the right face for
Mm.
bad guys. So
I mean, I don't know if you
I
can tell
enjoyed
by
it.
listening to me speak, but we have that in common. I've been typecast as the bad guy with the deep voice a few times
Yeah.
myself. Although your voice is rounder and more profound, more profundo than mine, for certainly. I think I qualify as a solid baritone, but I did sing bass for a big chunk of my life because I was the only guy that could get down there that we
Right.
had available. So I think in my case it wasn't that I was a bass, but it was that I could fake it and they needed me to.
My voice is more a hired killer, and yours is more a serial killer. I think
I
that's what
love that.
that's the
That's
difference between us.
so Hitman. So you kill for money, I kill for pleasure.
Correct.
All
Yes.
right. I
Yes.
mean, I've heard I've heard my voice described a lot of ways. That's a first, but I like it. And then how do you go from opera? And this isn't going to be like a whole lot of talk about your past. I know you do that kind of thing a lot, but just for the people who don't know, how do you go from opera to sort of folk pop singer songwriter? Like, what was that journey like for you?
It was kind of going back to it because when I was first in college, I was first 4 years I was studying journalism and I was writing songs. You know, I was I'd go out to California and try to sell them to producers out there. And then when I went into composition, um, that was the intention: learn how to write music better. And then I flipped to opera, and I just kind of shut down my songwriting, like an idea, because I've had song ideas come my head since I was a little boy, just constantly.
Right.
And during that period of time, I just shut that part of my brain off because I was so busy. Because you're learning opera, it's in Italian and German and French and Russian, and so you
Yeah.
don't have time for distractions like that. So then when I around the year 2000, when I had the paralyzed vocal cord and I had surgery and they weren't able to fix it, so then I went back to songwriting and pulled out all those ideas that I'd had in previous years, and from then on it's been, you know, strictly that. The
That's
first album
amazing.
came out in 2005, and yeah, this is where, you know, you sometimes you decide where you were meant to be. As much as I enjoyed opera and the thrill of being on stage with a full orchestra, this is where I was meant to be because I like creating, and there's
Yeah.
not a lot of room in opera for creating because, you know, the music was written 100, 200 years ago. They're not going to change that. The conductor has the tempo he wants to go. The
Yeah.
director has a concept of what the show is going to be already, and so
Hmm.
your ability to create is pretty limited. So
Yeah, they're not going to let you change the Barber of Seville at this point, I don't
no,
think.
they'll change it, but I mean, I've seen productions of Don Giovanni where he's a heroin addict, you know, in New
That's
York
fun.
City. I mean, that's I'm not that keen on that. I like things presented in the way they were intended because
I
the,
think
the
that's true.
dialogue doesn't match.
Yeah.
But so they can do it, but as you're on stage, you can't really. I mean, you can put your mark on the character, but really, there's a very narrow window for that. And So songwriting's that I just enjoy creating. It's just
Yeah.
that's I feel at home. I like the give and take between the audience and myself. And as you know, you control the tempo of the show
Yes.
because you're doing the talking between. I mean, the band's playing the song in the moment, but as soon as that's over between songs, it's all you, and
Yeah.
you're the director and the conductor and the the stage manager and the whole works. So.
And you can speak to this a little if you want. But so we've had a few band members in common, you and I actually.
Yeah,
Um,
I saw Alan was
yes.
my keyboard in the one that
Yes.
one song.
Yes. And if I'm not
I looked
mistaken,
for Alan on
Dennis played
Facebook.
guitar for you for a while as well, didn't he?
Dennis Rambo?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah. He did.
Dennis and I spent a couple of years together as well.
Dennis is a good guy. I
Yeah,
like
very
him. He's
strong
very
guitar player.
intense,
That's
very
true.
strong,
So,
intense.
for better or for worse, Dennis and I are not on speaking terms these days. But
That happens with Dennis,
I
but
was going to say, that's
he's
his call, and I'm
yeah.
okay with it. I think you
Right.
find
So
over the years that you can't control other people. You can only control what you put out in the world.
no, there's no question about that, and that is tested when you're in a band,
Yes.
especially if you're traveling with people and.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's been people that don't work for me, and like in the way I'd like them to work. I think I'm an easy person to work for, and um, but it's funny. There's guys that have come and been in the band a short time, and I'm like, man, this guy is so good. Why isn't he playing for like a major national act?
Mm.
Then like a month later, I'm like, that's why.
Right, because
That's why he's
there's
not.
another shoe, and actually
That's right.
that was kind of what I was getting at. So I've heard that and this is a thing about me as well. So certainly I wouldn't consider it a dig, but knowing some people who've been in your bands or whatever, and they say this, I think in a positive way, but certainly in a way, is that you like me can sometimes keep a band on their toes a little bit just because you like to push and pull the feel of things, and because you're sort of gonna go your way, and part of a band's job when you're a solo artist, part of the job of the band that's working with you is to just sort of be ready for that kind of thing.
I think so. Flexible and willing to go the direction that maybe you wouldn't intend it to be. I
Yeah.
find sometimes it's when your supporting members are singer songwriters them when your supporting members are singer songwriters themselves, then they also have the obstacle of where they are the front man at times. It's hard to be. There are some people that are just so good at support,
Mm-hmm.
like Tom Hampton. I don't know if you've ever played with Tom, but
I haven't played with Tom, but I'm
Tom
familiar with Tom.
Hampton is like the proverbial support guy. He's just so good. I mean,
Mm.
when I'm on stage with him, I just feel so comfortable. He's just he can anticipate what I'm going to do, and
Yeah.
he's not trying to be like, look at me.
I
And
have
because
that.
of that, you look at him.
Right. I have that relationship with my drummer. My drummer is a guy named John Hoff, and he is, without question, a singer's drummer. And I think only other singers really understand what it means when you call somebody a singer's drummer.
That's right.
But
Yeah. They're
it's a
sensitive to the song. They know.
yes,
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
different skill set. Like people
There
can talk
is.
about Neil Peart and guys like that, guys who have all these tremendous technical skill, and John can do those things as well. But at the end of the day, I compare him to guys like Levon, like guys who really know how to play to the song,
Right.
and
And
that's my
I
thing.
mean, it's so comfortable to sing with guys like that. It just
Yes.
makes it so easy. And sometimes you feel like you're fighting against it a little bit, but
Mm.
to no fault of the players, it's I blame myself for that. But when you get with a drummer that knows song, then it's great.
Yeah, and especially when it's a drummer who knows you, and that comes back to kind of the theme of the whole show tonight. And I thought you were a great guest for this, to the point where I literally named the show after one of your songs today.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
I don't always do that. It just kind of it was sitting right there. It was, I mean, you have a song called That One Song, and
That's
I
right.
have a song called Can You Relate that contains a lyric that is the same. Like I have a line in my song that says, sometimes at the end of an endless drive I hear that song that makes me feel alive. and it's an understanding that there is a power inherent in
I
it.
know that song. I was listening to it today.
Hey, that's great to hear.
Very, very catchy. It doesn't take too long. My sometimes I judge a song, but if you can sing along with the chorus by the second after second verse, and I could do that. I was singing with you. So
So and
congratulations on that.
thank you, and
Yep.
that's an interesting thing is from a compositional standpoint too, because I think that even those of us whose platforms are, shall we say, less extravagant than others. You know, you and I both have a platform, but Taylor Swift, we are not. Um,
Right.
but
I'm okay with that.
there is a responsibility to having a platform because I think of the power of a song, because you hold in your hands the power to achieve a kind of a catharsis. By the way, in the chat we have somebody commented that your rule of thumb there regarding the chorus, they find that really interesting. And we have somebody else who brings up that Matt Chamberlain. Now, tell me in the chat, who is Matt Chamberlain currently drumming for, but refers to him as a singer's drummer? I'm just curious about that. But do you find that you feel sometimes the weight of responsibility that comes with being a person whose purpose in life is creation?
Uh, I'm not sure. Let me hear that question again.
Songs have power,
Right.
and they can affect people's lives. They can lead to catharsis, they can lead to emotional epiphanies. Do you ever feel the weight of that power, knowing that there are sometimes going to be people who listen to your songs and get something from it that maybe you weren't anticipating?
Yeah, I mean, I've had a number of songs that have worked that way, and I don't know whether I feel a responsibility, but I'm definitely appreciative that people are able to take something that I wrote and apply it to their lives. And I mean, I don't write too much from an autobiographical point of view. I try to make things more that everyone can relate to them, as opposed to, hey, here's what happened to me, sort of thing. And
Yeah,
so I kind of write from that point of view. But you can always, I mean, there's always, I just, we did a live concert from Morning Star a couple weeks ago,
I
and I was talking about this one song that I wrote called Enjoy, and I'd gotten an email. This is about 10 years ago, and this woman was asking, would it be okay if they use that song for their wedding? And I
mm.
was like, absolutely. And I didn't tell her that it's about a serial killer, not a serial killer, a guy who breaks up with his wife and then he's stalking his girlfriend with a rifle. So there's a segment in the song where he's in the woods in the rain with a rifle outside her window, and but apparently that's not what they got from the song.
That's yeah, that's a heck of a
So
180.
it is. So, but and the funny thing was, she was watching that night and commented, and it was live on Facebook, and said, "Hey, that was me." And they'd been, because I was saying, I wonder what happened to that couple. And, but that's the one of the things I like about it is that once you've written it and thrown it out there, you don't own it anymore.
Yeah.
It's whatever the listener turns it into. And I like that. I like creating it and then they're taking part in the creative process themselves. And I took it to the 1 yard line, and you can score the touchdown from here.
I
But so
think
they're turning it into what they want it to be.
I think I agree with you, but I wonder how many singer songwriters would disagree with us about that. I'm curious because I've heard so many, and it is such a subjective thing. I've heard so many different people have so many different opinions on how and why they write songs that I find it really interesting. Um, you know, you and I seem to have somewhat similar approaches. You know, there's maybe there's a flash of inspiration or an idea, and then it's about whether your craft is sufficient to bring that into reality in some way. Um, what is your usual, would you say, first step?
I write from, unless I've been commissioned to write a song. Like there's different organizations that have had me write songs for their organization. So
Been
then
there.
I'm going into it with a specific idea of what they want. And oftentimes take whatever their specialty is and try to incorporate that into the words. So then I'm in a kind of I have to write within the parameters of that. But my normal writing process is where I'll come up with a melody in my head, and then I sit down and I'm singing the melody, and I will sing. I'll start putting chords behind it, and then I sing nonsense syllables, right? And
Sure.
I'll record myself singing those nonsense syllables, and then I go back and listen to it, and something like there was a sentence in there that made sense. So then this one line is there, and then I build the song around that.
That's
Kind of,
interesting. That
it's
is,
rather than going in with very rarely I go in with a like I'm going to write a song about this or that, and
I would
it's
say
usually
that's,
writes itself kind of thing.
yeah, I would say that's a cousin of my most frequent process. I have a couple of different paths I take that get where it needs to get, but I do that kind of thing too. And actually, ironically, so this is a story kind of for my viewership as well, but you'll get a kick out of it. I'm currently writing a song with a drummer in Los Angeles who's a friend of mine. He plays for a band out there, and we had just been kicking around the idea of working on a song, and he sent me a little uh, 45-second clip, and he went, "Hey, I sat down with a cajon and a piano, and I wrote this thing, and I think you should write to it. Please ignore the lyrics." There, and I was just like, okay, this is going to be great. And I played the lyrics, and it's just gibberish, and but it's not, but it's all real words, which I found even funnier. Sometimes when I do it, I'm going a deep and bat and doo doo or whatever, like I'm just making
Right.
noises. But he didn't do that. They're real words, which I think is more akin to the Paul McCartney stories of scrambled eggs.
Scrambled
Everybody
eggs.
calls
Yeah.
me scrambled eggs. But he
Right.
goes in the song, he sends it to me, and it's like bright Kelly peanut butter jelly, and it's like really weird stuff, and it's all about me and my name, and it was very interesting. And I went, so should I take that and top line and try to play with it? And he was just like, do whatever you want to do, but that's just kind of what happened. And I think sometimes songs do happen to us. Um,
Without question.
but I took a cue from one of my favorite songwriters, Dawes, and I took a cue from him a few years ago and started trying another thing where he just occasionally will get an idea for a great song title, and he'll just write it in a notebook. And he has this notebook of song titles that for songs that don't exist, but they're just phrases he likes. And every now and
Yeah.
again he'll go, "Oh, it's this one's time now. It's time for this one," and he feels it. And I've been
Yeah.
trying that.
I've heard people that, I mean, I think Springsteen writes that sort of thing where he has a notebook filled with words and phrases that this will sound like a great song, but that very rarely happens to me. I don't know why, but it's usually the music is dictating the lyrical cadence, and
Hmm.
I guess it's always good to kind of break out of those habits and try a different way of doing things, which
I was gonna say, have
it
you ever
seems to
tried
work.
any? Have you ever tried any of these tactics that other people recommend? Because sometimes when I'm stuck, I'll look for tactics to try, like how do others people break through a wall on a song and things like that. And I've
Right.
stumbled onto some very strange stuff, and I like to experiment just to see if it makes me write a different kind of song. And sometimes it does. I'm curious if you've ever tried anything specific to break yourself out of habit or something like that.
I've I very rarely I've never had writer's block,
Oh, I'm
so
so
I've
jealous of
never.
you.
Yeah, it's just I don't know why, but I mean I have my phone has probably 200 song ideas that I'll never get to, that I have to go back, and that's one thing I've done during this COVID thing was go back through all those ideas and start picking out the ones that I like. But
Mm,
I can only recall one time when I was in a song and I had nowhere to go with it, and I passed it off to a friend of mine who's a singer songwriter, and she finished it up. It's called what is the Nightbird is the song.
mm.
But other than that, I'm able to work my way through with my process, and
That's
I mean
so
when I
cool.
young songwriters, I'll give them tips that I don't necessarily use, which is take an existing, although I won't say that's totally true, because sometimes I'll take a chord progression I like and just play the chord progression from somebody else's song and then write my own thing over the top of it.
Hmm.
So I
Hmm.
encourage young singer songwriters do that. Take a song you like, chord progression, and then just sing a song over that and try to get away from what you're hearing. Or the other
Yeah.
thing is to take a song the lyrical cadence of a song.
Sure.
Just remove the words, but take, like take an Elton John song and take the lyrical cadence and just put in new words, and then try taking the melody in a different direction. Then it's just ways to get around
The
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 whole.
strangest thing I've ever tried is I've tried the Brian Eno thing.
What's that?
Brian Eno made a deck of cards he calls oblique strategies, and and I don't even try it when I'm stuck. Sometimes I try it just to see if it'll shake loose a different facet of what I do. Um, but it's really strange stuff. You draw a card at random and it'll give you a thing to try to twist on your song. And, you'll pull it.
Oh,
It'll
okay.
go. Oh, try it at 20 BPM faster, or change the key, or translate the lyrics into a different language and then back and start over, or really crazy stuff. And I would say it has worked for me 0 times, but it's always been fun to try.
So did you use I mean, is this deck of cards available to
Yeah,
people? And
you can
did you
find
use
them.
his, or did you make your own, or what was
Oh,
the?
I don't. He's made a few of them over the years, and you can find people who've like printed versions of them on eBay or something. I'm sure that what I got was a bootleg. I had like a digital bootleg, basically.
Okay, gotcha.
Um, and it was interesting, is the word I would say. But guys like that who are that methodical about it, it feels so alien to me to be trying to work that way, because I'm much closer to you, where the melody kind of creeps up on me, and certain cadences naturally want to happen in my voice, and that if I'm doing this like 3 or 4 syllable run, it'll start to feel like a word to me, and I'll know, and it'll just kind of I often feel like I'm more growing something than writing something when I'm going at it.
Right. No, that's true. That's a pretty good observation. I find that a lot of times when I'm singing, for some reason, the Fourth of July comes into that line, the Fourth of July. It's like I'll be singing, it's appeared in. I've never used it in a song, but invariably, as I'm writing a song, I end up singing the Fourth of July.
It's your rosebud.
I
It just keeps
gotta
coming
get
back.
something like that. But,
Do I have a phrase like that it keeps? I think I do. I think I find myself resisting the urge to use a lot of elemental imagery. I think I try to write about water a lot.
water.
I think
Yeah.
I try to write water and water themed things a
How
lot.
about rain? Do you have rain in
Yeah,
any of your songs?
like a lot of rain.
Yeah, it's rains. My song is subject to the weather. Also, I have a few songs like Memphis Rain and Sister Rain and
I've got Count the Rain and It Never
Count the
Rains.
Rain.
Yeah.
That's the guy from.
That song, my song "Count the Rain" is about how it's about Herculean tasks. It's about impossible things. But
Is it
the
a great? Is it a great enough song, or is
no,
it?
it's a Brett Kelly solo song that's not even really out there in the world so much.
Okay,
I play it
yeah,
live on my shows sometimes.
gotcha.
Um, Andy Fega says hi, Dan. By the way, I got that in my chat
Hey,
just
Andy.
now. My
He is the father of my bass player.
Dan.
And also, yeah, Dan is the sound guy at Sellersville. That's how
Yes,
I met him. An excellent sound guy. His
Dan.
show, the
Dan played bass on the Great Enough's demos, all of them,
oh,
before we had
cool.
a regular bass player. So there you go. There's another
Ah,
guy
okay,
we have in common. Dan's great.
that's right. But that his sound booth sessions at Sellersville are really
Yeah,
excellent. I've been
I'm
seeing,
hoping that we'll do one in the near future.
it's like the cream of the crop of this thing. So.
Joe Maskey, do me a favor and restate your question in the chat, because I've lost it and I don't want to scroll up that high again, buddy. And then I'm being asked to tell a story that one of my people knows about a weird way that I wrote a song.
Okay,
If you're curious, so have you heard our song "Voice on the Radio"? It's a great enough song.
I've heard it, but I couldn't sing it to you
No,
right
that's
now.
fine. That's fine. That song was originally called Radio Beijing, and I never intended to let that be the real title, because I was worried about racial undertones or something like that.
Right.
That was the working title, and the reason behind it was really funny. And I'd be curious if anything weird has ever caused a song for you. So this is what happened. Oh, and also Tommy, your drummer, says you're a pleasure to work with.
Oh, it's nice of him.
Yeah.
Tommy's worked with Alan too.
Everybody, we've really moved in a lot of the same circles, which is funny to me in some ways.
Before you get on the story, did Alan bring Dennis Rambo in, or did Dennis Rambo bring Alan in,
Neither.
or were they not together?
They were, but I met them independently, and they didn't know. I brought them both into the band,
Ah,
and they
okay,
happened to already know each other. I
okay.
met Dennis on Craigslist. That way
That's how I
back.
put my first
Yeah.
band together.
When I was like 18, 19 years old, I met him on Craigslist. And then Alan, actually, I met them both on Craigslist at very different times. And then Alan, of course, is like the sweetest guy I think
He
I've ever
is.
worked with. He's just so kind and quiet and humble. And
He's a cute.
yeah,
He's a genius too. I don't
he
know if you knew,
really
but
is.
he invented some of the
Internet.
words, internet words that are common vernacular now. But
He
he was the guy.
he worked on the DARPA gateway. I found out he's
Yeah,
incredible.
yeah.
Um,
A
uh,
good traveling companion too. He's a
yeah,
good guy.
and very kind and very generous with his time. And I
No
really
question
loved
about
working
it.
with him. I really loved
Yeah.
working with him.
Same here.
So here's the
Anyway,
Beijing
back to
story.
your story. Okay, the Beijing story.
So I had bought a 1970s fuzz face pedal as a gift for my guitar player, and he still has this pedal. And it was one of those old round red ones that you see on some guys' pedal boards.
Right.
And they're disastrous. They sound really good, but they're incredibly finicky. And one of the things that they do is uh, they're unshielded and they're terrible with radio interference and RF interference. And
Right.
so we were down in my friend Brian DiBaggio's basement. We were trying to write a song, and he went upstairs to I can't remember. He ran upstairs something with his wife or his kid or something like that. He ran upstairs for a couple of minutes, and so we were sitting there quietly, like hanging out, waiting. And his amplifier started to talk, and it was
Oh, is it
talking.
like the baby monitor or something?
It was talking in Chinese about
Oh
half
wow,
the,
huh?
and but it was doing that very strange thing where if you've heard people talking in another language where they'll occasionally just say English words in the middle of their sentence because their language doesn't have that word, and so they just use the
Right.
English one.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
So this was what was happening. It was somebody speaking in Chinese, but every eighth or 10th word would be an English word or phrase. And so I grabbed a notebook and I scribbled down every English word I heard, and I turned that into the song voiced on the radio. The
That's
entire
pretty good. I'm gonna
first,
listen to it when I get
yeah,
done here.
the entire first verse is based around like I treated it like Mad Libs. Blank, blank, blank. Here's the word. Blank. Here's the word.
Ah,
Blank,
wow.
blank.
It's
Here's the
like
word.
putting a puzzle together.
Yeah, yeah. So
That's pretty
we're
cool.
and it was really strange words, and so it turned into that song. And some of my friends found that crazy. Oh, we've got a good question for you. Joe's question for you was, when and how did you realize that you couldn't live? He says you couldn't live without writing music. Interpret that however you like.
I think I knew that. I mean, as far as m- first, when I was a little kid and I had these songs that would pop into my head, songs I'd never heard before. I'd go up to my mom and I'd say, "Mom, what is this?" And I'd sing her this melody, and she'd say, "I don't know what that is," and you must have wrote it yourself. And I thought this was something everybody did. It wasn't until later on, and I was talking to some of my friends at school, and when you're writing a song, like you're laying in bed writing a song, they're like, "What are you talking about?" And I realized it's not something that everybody does, and something that just happens to a lucky few of us. But I think I realized that I couldn't live without it once I finished opera, and I realized how much I missed it because I turned off that, like I said earlier, I turned off that part of my brain created music because I just didn't have room for it. And
That
at
would
that point, I realized how much I missed it.
that would feel like an amputation to me. to
Yeah,
to try
yeah.
to try to shut that part of me off. That I can't like I can't think of a better analogy. That would be like removing a limb. I don't know how to stop doing that.
Yeah, it's and the funny thing was I also have a hole in my music knowledge, like the history of music. I play this on what's that where you talk? Not Siri, but Alexa. On
Mm.
Alexa, I play song quiz on there, and you can answer. They play a snippet of a song, and you give the answer of
I'm
the
gonna play
song.
that later. That sounds like a thing I'd
Yeah,
love.
song quiz, and you pick the decade. I can do 60s, 70s, but half of 80s. But then when you get from like 85 to 2000, there is a big old huge hole in my musical knowledge, other than, like Pete Yorn or
I love Pete Yorn.
Rufus Wainwright. Me too. We were talking about like where you hear a song and it takes you to a certain place.
Mm.
Pete Yorn, it's like that Pete Yorn album. I think it was around the same time that what was the name of that? The Drops of Jupiter band. Who
Oh,
was
Train.
Train? But they're about the same time where they both
Yeah.
their big albums came out, and I was having to drive to I was working in Montreal, and I was driving up there, and it's like you have those albums that are a very specific time and like place, and we were talking about how, or we had mentioned before the show about certain songs that take you to a certain time and place, and that's what the gist of that one song is. It's that
Mm.
it was a song between a guy and a girl, and they're not together anymore. He doesn't want to hear it anymore. He doesn't turn on the radio anymore out of fear that that song's going to come on. But
Right. Right.
there's I have so many of those songs that take me to certain places and times, but it's usually like in a time frame of a year or whatever. But
Right. Right.
I have a few songs that they're so specific geographically. Like I have, whenever I hear, um, that song by, I think Badfinger wrote it, but Harry Nilsson. Oh, I can't forget this evening. Oh, your
Oh yeah.
face, you were leaving.
Yes.
Without you. That's the name of the song. Whenever I hear that song, I immediately am in the back seat of my dad's car at the Third National Bank at the drive-up window in Sandusky, Ohio. It's like it's
Wow.
so bizarre. I mean, it's just. And then I got one where it's song by the Little River Band. You remember
Uh,
the song? I don't know if you know them at all, but
I
there's a song
do.
called "Lady," and I hear that, and I'm immediately on East 19th in Minot, North Dakota, crossing North Broadway. And it's like so specific. It's just you wonder what
I get
these
that.
geographical connection, what is the meaning of this?
I get
Why
that.
is it important to me to why are they tied so tightly? Because it's not anything that feeds my soul in any way or anything.
It's just
It,
connected to the DNA of your life in that place.
I guess, but I
Yeah.
mean, you hear those songs so many times through your life, like "Life's Been Good" by Joe Walsh. I
Sure.
am I'm driving through Colorado or Aurora, Colorado, at a certain intersection, and it's just amazing. I
That
always go
song,
right there.
I have a specific one for that song too. Every time I hear the "My Maserati goes 185,"
Right.
as soon as I hear that part of the song, I am I'm in Woodbury, New Jersey, at a family barbecue in the pool, getting yelled at to get out of the pool so I can eat immediately. Um,
That's the
because
one of the
my fat,
beauties of
yeah,
music.
it
It's just so
is.
cool.
That's what I was thinking about when I started talking about, because we could have done this theme a few different ways. We could have said like, what's the song that made you feel this? What's the song that made you do that? But it's more interesting to me about the way that songs can surprise you. You could say like, what's the song? What songs have changed the world? What songs have whatever. But it's more interesting to me to go. And by the way, in the chat, feel free to tell us your versions of these. I'll talk about them on air and me and Dan will tell you whether we feel anything from those songs as well. But the way that songs can affect you very specifically is so. It's like witchcraft.
Yeah, yeah. It's in you. It's just.
Mike Monette says, "How's Coop?"
Coop's Coop's starting to show his age a little bit. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's another of my branding things.
Yeah,
I'm forever linked with Coop, and
that's true.
he and I'm in the next couple of weeks, I'm starting this. I wrote a book. I got two books out.
Hmm.
The first one, Adventures in Grocery Shopping. Um, I'm going to start. We're doing this 5 minute story time with Coop and Dan at 7:45. The that's the name of the show.
That's
Five
great.
minutes, 5 minute story time with Coop and Dan at 7:45. So I'll be reading every night an excerpt from the book, and
I'm
so
gonna tune
I
into
just
that.
got Coop's getting old, so I got to hurry up and get on with it because I don't know how much longer he'll be around. So Mike Monette, he's doing good. He's just now he's got he wakes up at 3 o'clock in the morning and 4:30, and if anyone's ever had do you have a pet, Bright, at all, or
I
do you,
do. I have an 11-year-old gecko and a cat who's going on
a
8.
gecko?
Yeah.
Does he try to sell you insurance at all?
No, she doesn't. Mike Monette also says he's starting to show his age. And Steve Sheck says, "How about that song about Sandusky?" And then I don't know what he means, but he says, "Play in a horn band in Las Vegas." And he had,
Steve Scheck was
yeah.
he went to high school with me, and he's a
Thanks, Alex.
trombone player down in New Orleans.
Oh, that's
That's
amazing.
what he's talking about. He's identifying himself as a horn player and very successful musician down there. But
That's great. I
he
love
was
New
a couple
Orleans.
years older than me in high school, and we were in choir together. And I haven't seen him since then. But the beauty of Facebook, you reconnect with people that you
Yeah,
didn't.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see who I accidentally reconnect with now that I have a second Facebook account because my first one has been hacked by a person from Vietnam.
Really?
That's why I'm Bright Lucas Kelly now instead of just Bright Kelly. The Bright Kelly account was hacked by a guy from Vietnam, and I'm
Can't
still
you get it
struggling.
back?
I'm trying. I have to
Yeah.
wait for Facebook to get back to me. All I was able to do via their system was lock the account. So now it's locked and they can't do anything with it.
Oh, okay.
But I've got like 12 odd years of photos and memories. Although shout out to
Yeah.
Jen Lee, who I know is in the chat tonight. One of my little sort of fit friend community, my family, people that listen to my music, they call themselves the Lamplighters and Nuff heads for the Great Enough fans. But anyway, Jen Lee is one of our diehards and went through for me and tagged about a million photos of me from my other Facebook account so I didn't lose them. It's pretty amazing.
That's great because I know, my guitar player Tom Hampton lost his account,
Mm,
and there's like a dozen years of photos
yeah.
there are friends on there. The one thing is, I don't know if you've ever go like if I have a show coming up and I'm sending out personal invites to people via Facebook,
Hmm.
because I don't send out just a shotgun thing like I'm having a show. I send invites to people personally, but you go through your list of friends and then it's shocking how many of them have died. It's just, I have so many friends that on Facebook whose accounts are still there, but they're not. And it's a very sobering thing to, if you ever get a chance, just scroll through
I
your
do, in
friends
fact.
list.
Yeah.
And you're a little younger than me, or a lot younger than me, so you probably have you probably don't have as many
You're
friends that
less.
are
You're
of that
less than.
age.
You're less than two of me, I think, though.
I'm 61.
Yeah, you're a little less than two of me.
Oh,
I'm a good. Two of me. You'd have to be 68. I'm 34.
okay, gotcha.
Steve Sheck said he was also in the Marine Band and played at the White House. That's amazing.
There you go.
Um, Here
Thank
you
you for your
go.
service, Steve, on belated Veterans Day thing.
Yes. Okay, so Joe Maskey, and I'm curious if you'll even know this song because you've said there's a hole in your education in this era. But Joe Maskey says that he and his mother were in the car in the summer when they first heard the song Hella Good by No Doubt. And they were like, "What is this?" And 18 years later, he still gets excited when that song comes on because it was a really unique combo of rock, hip hop, and pop, which I agree
I
with.
like that song. That's the one
Yeah.
where they're like on water cycles or
Mm-hmm.
something. It's very
Yes.
nautical. Yeah, it's got a great beat, and yeah, it's a
And
good song.
then
Oh no, I that was not in the section where the hole in my
There
music.
you go. I see. I was just curious if it would be. And then Tequila Mockingbird in my chat, which by the way, if you guys, I'm watching two chats. So Facebook, if I missed your commentary, please know I'm doing my best. But I've got multiple screens, and I'm trying here.
I'll scroll down and
My
see.
live chat is primarily on Twitch. If anybody wants to follow us over on Twitch, just go to brightkelly.me/show or search brightkelly19 on the Twitch app. It's free to make an account over there as well. But um, we've got Tequila Mockingbird in my chat, and forgive me, I can't place who that is, but Tequila Mockingbird says the song "Swing Life Away" by Rise Against, which by the way I love that song, and says I'm in the front seat of my friend's SUV going around a roundabout in Farmington Hills, Michigan, as the sun is rising. We've been driving aimlessly all night.
Isn't that crazy? Just that
That's so
that's so
specific.
specific.
Ugh.
And I don't know how he is, but I just cannot for the life of me figure out. Clearly it's important. I'm going to find it out somewhere down the line that it's important that those things occurred at that moment, but I just don't know what they are right now.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's like for me, I if I hear the song "Bright Side of the Road" by Van Morrison, I'm immediately I'm 21 years old. I'm in the passenger seat of a purple Kia Sportage. I'm speeding down the road in some random suburb in in like northeastern Pennsylvania, and my future wife, who at this point is just my friend, just a girl I'm friends with. My future wife is driving, and no matter how much I yell, she keeps turning it up. And it's instant. It's immediate. I'm always there. Every time the song comes on, I'm in her purple Kia Sportage, and I'm a kid, and I'm just looking over at her, and she's wild, and I don't know how to deal with it. We've got our friend Biolenti13 says uh, that her friend played Boulevard of Broken Dreams by Green Day on a Burn CD, and she swears that was the only song on the whole CD. Now, Burn CDs, like showing, going back in time a hair there. Those
Well,
have
how
gone.
about cassette tapes? I mean, I still have some
I
cassettes there.
I still have cassettes, but like so, I tell people I had a cassette player. My first music collection was cassettes, but it's not because cassettes were still a thing when I was a kid. It's because we were too poor for anything else. You could go get cassettes for 50 cents at the thrift store when I was a kid, and there were still I think new cassettes were still a thing when I was really young. I think it was still
Right.
happening, but
You
I
can buy them in a store
but
like
they were
Music
cheaper.
Land or something.
Yeah, they were cheaper than CDs. Actually, ironically, I was a Tower Records kid growing up, and they just announced they've reopened as an online retailer here in the United States again. So,
Tower Records.
yeah, Tower Records has been resurrected.
I remember the thrill of going into Tower Records down on South Street for the first time and seeing one of my CDs there.
That
That
was my
was very
dream.
cool.
That was
Yeah,
my
very
dream. I
cool.
wanted to have
I
my
missed that
CD
part.
in Tower Records, and I never got the chance because Tower
They
Records
were
closed
gone.
for good when I was like 13 or something.
Wow.
I never got the chance to do that.
Yeah, I missed
Oh,
that.
App Striker in my chat has a good one, Dan. I think you'll have feelings about this. He says Billy Joel's "The Stranger." We were
Right.
lost coming back from camping, and we found our way just as the line "Everyone goes south every now and again," and we had needed to go south. He's 12 years old. He's a Boy Scout, and his dad is driving him back from camping.
So they were taking directions from the music they were
Yeah,
listening to.
and
That's very good.
that. It took me a second to place that line in the song, but I got there. It's "Everyone
Everyone
goes
goes
south."
south
Yeah.
every now and then. It's a good song. Good album, man.
Billy Joel
Good
is
album.
one of those songwriters, and I don't think many have achieved it, but I think at least once or twice in his very long career, he's written a perfect song.
Yeah, he's got. I tend to like. I mean, I will admit I'm a Billy Joel fan. I do
Same.
like a lot of his stuff, but I mean, I like his Turnstiles. I think is my favorite. Maybe when it was, I oftentimes the 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 artist catalog. I tend to like some of their earlier stuff better than when they get into when I think when you reach a level of fame, you have the pressure of having to it be popular. as
Yeah.
opposed to just writing a good song.
I
And
think mostly I agree.
uh,
The exception for me is I think that the Beatles went the other direction for me. I don't think they cared about being popular. I think they saw their fame as like, oh, we've proved ourselves now. We can do whatever the hell interests us.
yeah, I mean, but they're an anomaly.
They are
It's just,
absolutely an
I
anomaly.
mean, songwriting prowess. I haven't heard Paul McCartney's new album. I'm sure that it's
You know,
good.
it's not. I think since around Memory Almost Full, Paul hasn't grabbed me the same way, and
Yeah,
I don't.
this one he did all himself, which is interesting. I think it's
Yeah,
McCartney 3. I think because
he said he's now going back and looking through old notebooks and things because he's not writing at
yeah,
the same pace, and he's like
I'm
digging for
sure.
ideas a little bit. And I'm writing a song right now that has a line about him. I'm working on a song right now where one of the lyrics is, "I think McCartney might be out of songs, but man, I love the ones he wrote." Because
Good line.
Well,
I like it.
so George and Paul and John were all obviously extraordinarily gifted songwriters, to a degree that doesn't even seem fair, I think. But Paul was the most consistent of them, I think.
You know which of the three of all the Beatles song, which one has had the most plays?
In the world, I would have. Ooh,
Yes. What would you think
I'd
that
like to
would be?
take a stab. Can I get three guesses?
Sure.
Okay,
Sure.
my first guess would be Yesterday.
No.
Okay,
It's up there though.
my second guess would be Let It Be.
And that's not it either.
Okay, and my third guess would be uh, Hey Jude.
No, those are all in the top 10. The most played Beatles song was written by George. Here Comes the
Ooh, Here
Sun.
Comes the Sun.
Yeah,
I,
that is, I
George
mean,
is.
that's a great song.
I
Very
think George is
catchy.
my favorite songwriter of the three
Of the, yeah.
because I
I
think All
remember,
Things Must Pass is the greatest post Beatles album
yeah.
for me.
I liked, I think he probably wrote Taxman, didn't he?
I think he did.
I don't know.
It sounds
Off
like a
of the
George, and I know he
Revolver
wrote
album. It
something
sounds like
and
his guitar riff.
yeah,
Yeah, you know that something in the way she moves. He wrote that after they were sitting in on James Taylor's session over at Apple Records, and he had that something in the way she moves, looks my way or calls my name. So he was playing. George Harrison heard that and wrote his version of that with that line. But
I've
it's
done
funny
that.
because, but um, I heard the Beatles song because that was hugely popular. That
Sure.
where um, the James Taylor song is more of an album track, and but I didn't discover that until I was in high school, and I was thinking, wow, it's strange that James Taylor would lift that line verbatim, and it turns I found out later it was just the opposite. It was
Yeah.
George that took the line from
Yeah.
James
Yeah.
Taylor.
Well, and George actually also got sued for
Yeah, My Sweet
My Sweet
Lord.
Lord. He got sued by
Yeah.
was it the it wasn't the Ronettes, but it was one of those girl
I think it
groups.
was. I think it was the
Yeah,
Ronettes.
it was whoever did He's
They
So
were
Fine.
opening for him. They were opening for him on tour, and so he was hearing that every night in the
Yeah.
opening act, and it got in his head. But it's something like that where you think about
I don't think that lawsuit
plagiarism.
was fair personally, but hey.
No, I don't think. How would the success of My Sweet Lord in any way take money from their?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just.
Well, it's like,
Yeah,
you hear the can you hear my piano right now?
I cannot.
Okay, hang
I
on.
can hear the pressure sensitive velocity
There you
thing.
go. Now you hear it.
I can.
Okay. So it's like, going back to the Beatles, it's ludicrous to me that so many people have tried to claim plagiarism lawsuits based on chord progressions. You can't copyright a chord progression. How many songs are
Right.
it's
Tons.
a
Yeah.
million songs. Like everyone can hear that I'm playing Let It Be, but I could just be easily go, "Do you have the time to listen to me?" Like it's a million zillion little things.
Yep. There's so many of those.
And I've always found that sort of startling that Sam Smith sued Tom Petty over Tom Petty or other way around. Tom
Me
Petty sued
first.
Sam
Yeah.
Smith
Right.
Won't you
Free
stay
fall.
with me?
Yeah.
And because that was too close to, and I won't back down.
Right.
Come on.
Yeah, I thought that was a little bit of a stretch. There's only one major plagiarism um, case where I thought that the person actually plagiarized the song, not on purpose, but and that's Stevie Wonder. He was sued by the guy that no New Year's Day, no I just
Oh,
called to
right.
say I love you,
Uh,
because that is such a simple song written on a Casio. I mean, even you can even feel the Casio beat when it starts. It's just not it's not sophisticated enough for Stevie Wonder.
right.
The guy claimed he had sent it in to that publishing company or to his producer, and clearly, I mean, I believe that the guy,
Can't.
but when Stevie got up there and said, "Yeah, I just came up with it," and he sang it to the jury, and is like, they all melted into the floor because he
Right.
was
Stevie Wonder.
performing for him. How could he? But I honestly think he probably, and I mean, we're talking about one of the greatest songwriters of all time. But
Yeah. You know,
I don't know that it was on purpose. I just
s-
think it was in his
some
head.
lawsuits I've heard about have a little merit. Like I think Led Zeppelin probably deserved to get sued a few times.
Yeah, yes, I
Yeah.
was to him side by side.
Right, like Whole
Oh
Lot of
my
Love,
gosh.
Muddy Waters definitely was
Yeah.
justified in suing over Whole Lot of
There's a
Love.
lot. There's a lot of them.
Because Whole Lot of Love is, you need cooling, baby, I'm not fooling. And Muddy Waters' uh, song, You Need Love, was, you need cooling, baby, I'm not fooling. Like, it's exactly the same.
Right.
The
Yeah.
only thing they did was change the title and then slightly alter the chorus. Um,
I think there's specific, isn't it? It has to be seven consecutive notes.
yeah,
And
seven
because
consecutive notes.
I don't know that there must be some rule for lyrics, but I don't think like song titles are not
No,
copyrightable. Same
titles are
with
not
movie
copyrightable.
titles and
Yeah.
yeah.
I think Led Zeppelin might have thought they were. But those guys stole a few things over the years. I think that's common
Yes, they
knowledge.
did. Yes, they did.
But ironically, I also think that the songs they didn't steal were the best in their catalog. Maybe maybe
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah,
maybe theft wasn't the right way to go from them.
right.
Hi Ken Amato, Lisa Schaefer, and Don Shara. Thanks for tuning in. Lisa, I know we both know Lisa, right?
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
She did photos for a couple of my albums.
And
So
she did some photos for the Great Enough as well. And
she's great.
I'm sure we'll do more. She's great.
Any songwriters or bands out there looking for a photographer, Lisa Schaefer is the way to go.
100%. If you like those photos of the Great Enough where we're up against the white wall and we look really, really hot, the only reason we look really, really hot is because Lisa told us how to stand and where to put our faces and stuff. Because
She wasn't able to make me look hot. Wasn't
I
able to
think
pull off
there are
that well.
probably people who would disagree with you, Dan. There are probably people who would. There,
Maybe my wife.
there's an ass for every lap.
There you go.
I like to say. Everybody likes a little something. Over here in my chat, we were asked if you've heard McCartney's song "Temporary Secretary." I have not, but I hear it's bad.
Is this a new one? Is
Must
this
be.
also?
Yeah, it
Yeah.
must be. I don't know it. I don't know that one.
I mean, he's got a free pass to write whatever he wants, though. I mean,
I
his
agree. I
body of
mean,
work is,
the only guy who had the right to criticize him passed away in 1980,
yeah,
and he did criticize him quite a lot.
a little bit. A
John,
little bit.
didn't John
Oh,
Lennon
there
hate?
was.
Didn't John Lennon hate like When I'm 64 and Obladi?
I think there were a lot of songs of McCartney's he didn't like, but
Yeah,
I
and
don't know
vice
about
versa.
this. I was watching an interview with Ron Wood has a podcast, I guess, and he was interviewing McCartney. It was from a few years ago, but McCartney was talking about how John Lennon he could not see without his glasses, but at the time this was when they were young, and he was wearing horn rims, and so he'd take the horn, like Buddy Holly glasses.
Right, right.
And so when they'd go out at night, to meet girls or whatever, he'd take his glasses off and he was blind as a bat. And the one night they're out, and he he told John, can you make it home alone without being able to see. And John was, he's like, I'm fine, don't worry about it. And then he was talking to him the next day, and he said, I was walking home, and there was this. It was like 3 a.m, and there was this family out playing cards on the out, right off their right in their side yard there. And McCartney walked by later that day, and it was a nativity scene of
Oh,
Paul. You know, John Lennon couldn't. His eyes are so bad he thought it was people playing cards. And it
oh
was,
no.
but I would look up that Ron Wood podcast with Paul McCartney. It's a very, very funny interview.
I love hearing the inside stories from people who've been in moments like that.
Yeah, especially guys like that. They're just so iconic, and
right.
because it makes them human. And we've heard so many, like you're talking about earlier, the scrambled eggs. I mean, everybody's heard that, whether you're a
Yeah.
musician or, but I'd never heard that story about the glasses and the,
No.
because this was long before they were famous, and it's just that sort of thing is
Do you
really
know the
interesting.
swimming pool story? Do you know that one? The Beatles swimming pool thing?
No, which one's that?
Supposedly, in the lead up to Sgt. Pepper's, when Paul McCartney was feeling sort of disenfranchised, he wasn't really enjoying the Beatles, and
Right.
he made Sgt. Pepper's because he wasn't enjoying the Beatles anymore, and none of them really were, because it started to feel like it had long since ceased to feel like a calling, and it was a job. It had become a job to them, which like I know that you're going, wait, like it was a job, you're the Beatles, like that sounds so ungrateful, but we weren't there, we don't know, like
Well,
it's
I mean, plus they couldn't play live because they couldn't even hear themselves. That
right.
would get.
But apparently John and Paul would sit down, and Paul told the story a few times, and he said, and we would sit down, and we would know we had to get a record ready, and John would be like, all right, we wrote the house already, let's write the swimming pool today. And it was so scathing. But I think that has a lot to do with why they couldn't make it longer than 7 years. I would guess biographers have said the same. But the amount of work that they did in 7 years, again, just completely anomalous.
Oh
No,
yeah,
nobody's ever done that.
no question about it. No.
Here's a tough question. I'll throw a hardball your way.
Okay.
If you had to rattle off for our viewers just a couple, who are your go-to, like, these are the greatest songwriters?
Paul Simon's one of my
Yes.
favorites. His
Excellent.
songs are fabulous. Um, I think for I love Steely Dan, but that's a different kind of songwriting. But I've been a
It's
big Donald Fagen fan for a long time. Um, I like and I say, it's funny. I'd say, like, I still think of Pete Yorn as a new guy, and
I
it's like he's
love Pete Yorn.
but I Rufus Wainwright is one of my favorite all time songwriters. I don't know how familiar you are with his
Very,
catalog,
very much.
but he's great. Billy Joel's a great songwriter.
Mhm.
Uh,
Billy Joel's an interesting one for me though, because there is a deliberate. He doesn't even hide it. There's an element of artifice, of craft to Billy Joel that's not in
there's no
everybody.
doubt about it. Yeah,
He can
there's no
sit down
question
and
about
go,
it.
I want to write a song like this. I want to write a song like this guy. I want, like sitting down to do like
Oh, right.
Uptown Girl.
That whole album was a tribute to music from the past, and each one of them could have easily been a hit in the
Yeah.
years they were supposed to be. That
Just imagining
Innocent
doing
Man,
that.
I think it was,
It's
wasn't it?
Yeah, and it's just mind
Yeah,
blowing that he could,
yeah.
and he didn't seem ever restricted by genre. So my favorite Billy Joel song is probably the Downeaster Alexa, and talk about what a wildly different song that is from the rest of
Yeah,
his catalog. It's a sea shanty, for God's sake.
right. I like. Um, it just popped out of my head. Oh, James Taylor. James
I
Taylor's
like James
fabulous.
Taylor.
I'm a big fan of
From that
his.
era for me, the all time great of that era for me is Joni Mitchell.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a big Joni Mitchell. I think very highly of Dolly Parton as a songwriter.
I just saw her on CBS Sunday Morning this past week. There are these videos. If anybody wants to go online, you can see this. It's her um, watching people sing her songs, doing covers
Oh
to it,
yeah.
and her commenting on it, and then the people that did the covers watching Dolly Parton comment on it's a pretty cool thing. It's there's some things that like this the whole COVID not being able to I miss playing with the band,
Yeah,
it's
me too.
but this I've done a couple online shows and they've been really really successful. I gotta say I never thought that because I've over the past 15 years I've managed to establish a pretty good national following.
Yeah.
But we don't tour, especially in the middle of the country. We don't get to Nebraska and Oklahoma and you know Iowa. So all those
Excuse
people are
me.
tuning in on these. Bless you.
Thank you. I think there's one more coming. There it is. We're good.
Have you? Is that from light? Some people sneeze three
Yes,
times
it's
when they
light.
look into a light. Yeah.
And I have a big light right up here. You can see it in my
Go get a
glasses.
better go get a COVID test tomorrow. But this I've been able to do these online shows, which I would never even considered before, and reach that audience. And that's been pretty cool.
Here,
So, and I think it's I'm really worried about the getting back to the live performing thing
yeah.
because we've lost so many venues,
We just
and
lost Boot and
then
Saddle.
yeah, I saw that in the paper, and the thing is, so when this is all over, everybody's going to be trying to book shows at the same venues. It's going to be like a 3-year waiting list
Yep.
to go anywhere. It's just and it's a sad state of affairs to say
It's
the
why
least.
I've worked so hard to establish online. It's why I
Yeah,
do this,
yeah,
because it's the only way I can make a living as a musician. Because like you,
right.
my bread and butter was getting out there and doing live performance, and I can't
Speaking
do it
of
anymore.
finances, anyone who's watching, go on. There's a GoFundMe page for if you go on
Oh,
Bright Lucas Kelly's. His car was stolen,
yeah, that was
and
brutal.
yes, I'm sure. I mean, it's
They
just
only stole
a
most of the
bad
car.
time.
They didn't steal
Yeah,
the whole
right,
car.
right,
They
right.
just stole the important parts.
But it's not drivable.
No,
It's
it's
not
gone now.
drivable.
I sold it for parts. It's gone.
So you can go to his GoFundMe page. You just scroll down on his, and anyone that wishes to help out a professional musician that's a victim of circumstances. So do
Yeah.
that. I wish you luck there, man.
Thank you. I appreciate that, and thank you
It's
for
like when it
for
rains, it pours.
yeah, and thank you for
There's got
Billy
to be a
Joeling in that too, by the way. That was nice. Did you catch yourself doing that?
no. What was it?
You called me a victim of circumstance.
Oh, okay.
I never said I was a victim of circumstance.
Everyone goes south every now and again.
Yeah. Okay, here we go. We've got a great list. First, Janet, I don't know how to say this. Janet Herbelich, who is apparently also Howard Muller, says hi
Yes.
and
Hey,
agrees
Howard.
with James Taylor.
He's Howard's a very good keyboard player
There you go.
down the Carolinas.
We've got a really fun list of songwriters to mention from my chat over here, and we've got a few that I tell you what, guys, I'm gonna just say these, and then Dan and I are just gonna tell you what we think of them or if we know them, and I'm just gonna go through them in order. Do you know Charlotte Martin?
I do not.
I highly recommend a look. Charlotte
Yeah,
Martin is of the sort of Tori Amos school,
I'll
but
check that out.
really really spectacular. Imogen Heap, one of my favorites.
Oh yeah, I like her very much. Yeah.
Lady Gaga, you gotta admit she's impressive.
Yeah, she is talented. There's no question about it.
And to be able to write songs that are she's a pop crafts artisan.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
difficult to write those kinds of songs. There's a
it
reason
is.
that guys make a fortune doing it, but Gaga doesn't need those guys. Patty Griffin.
But I know her, but I don't. I'm not very well versed in her catalog.
I need to dig
These are
deeper into
people. So
Patty as
I should
well.
write down the ones. So who is Patty Griffin? Who is the first person you
Charlotte
mentioned?
Martin.
Charlotte Martin.
Yeah,
I'll
I
check her out.
I'll make sure to get these. Okay, well, here's
Yeah.
this one's this one's a contender for my number one. Carole King.
Oh yeah, she's great.
Unbelievable. And again, also like a Billy Joel, Carol had a knack for writing songs that felt like they belonged, and would have been hits in the era before they existed. Even like I think it would be really difficult to write a song like "Will You Still Love Me Tomorrow," because even at the time that Carol wrote that song, it sounded like, oh, obviously this song existed. This song must have already been a song. It's such an immediate, poignant, successful thing to have done. It's
Well,
remarkable to me that no one beat
that's
her
when
to it.
she wrote for somebody else though,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, what was it, the Shirelles or something? I don't remember
Yeah,
who it was,
but
you
imagine
know,
writing that. Imagine writing a song that was that completely on the money for that era. Unbelievable.
exactly. But she, you know, that's she's someone that you can sing the chorus by after the second verse. You
Yeah.
already know the song. You know?
Uh, Matt Healy. That's the band, the 1975. I think he was on a roll on his first album, but kind of lost me on later ones. But that's not call that in the chat as well. Have you had a chance to listen to those guys? It's more of an alternative rock thing.
I think I know one song that they had that was a big hit. What was that? What was their
Chocolate.
big? Yes, yeah, I like them. They
Yeah.
have the, you know, it's funny about them is that they have like a Cockney accent or something
Yeah.
that,
It's a yeah, and I agree that he has a really he's capable of really beautiful turns of phrase, because that song even has "We go where nobody knows with guns hidden under our petticoats."
uh,
That's a cool lyric.
that is a cooler. You know, I saw an interview with that guy. He is really smart.
That's true.
He's, I was really impressed because when you hear him sing, he sounds kind of like a street punk from somewhere in London or something.
Right.
But then you hear him interviewed, and I was completely blown away by his
Mm-hmm.
knowledge of music, and you know, it just caught me by
Yeah.
surprise. And then my respect for him went up a lot.
I
But
like that
I
band.
do like that chocolate song. That's a good
Yeah,
song.
his and the accent,
Guns
by the
in on
way.
the petticoats.
Yeah. Curious. The accent is actually Northern England. They're
Is that what
from
it is?
yeah, they're
Mm.
from I can't remember exactly, but like Manchester or Yorkshire, like up that way somewhere.
Yeah.
Um, oh, one of my people in the chat says Manchester. Apparently, that's it. Fiona Apple.
Again, I know some of her stuff, but not that well
Uh,
versed in it.
Joe Jackson.
I love Joe Jackson.
I
There's another song
I
that
don't know a
puts
lot of
me
his.
that Joe Jackson. There's another one of the geographic. I'm in a Air Force truck in North Dakota, outside of Ryder, North Dakota, and that's when I hear is she really going out with
That's the one I
him?
know.
Uh, don't. Yeah, my the guy that was I was on a Air Force missile response team, and we were headed to a missile site, and he had his he had a little cassette player, and he popped that in.
Mm,
So he's
mm.
a Joe Jackson. You know, he plays that. What's that? We've been stepping out
Oh yeah, I know that one.
into the night. That's a great one too.
But
He was just
I couldn't name five of his songs. I don't think.
XPN recently did a replay of his Free at on Friday concert.
Right, right.
I think it's in the archives. Check it out. It's
I
pretty
will.
good.
I will.
Yeah.
We got Jim Croce called out in the chat. I think that's a good guy to call out. He's great.
Yeah, it's one of those where it's so sad because
Mm.
what could have come?
Uh huh.
You know, him
I
and
feel
Harry
that way.
Cape and
I feel that way about Kurt Cobain, who was thinking about like getting out of grunge and like doing acoustic records at the time of his death.
yeah,
And I was just,
yeah.
what would that have been like?
What was
I'm so
right?
mad
Like,
I don't know.
what would he have been like in his 50s?
Right.
You
Like,
know,
would he
that
have
sort
settled
of
down
thing.
and written beautiful little indie acoustic songs or something? Like, what
Right.
would have happened to somebody? And it's not like you can't even argue that his death made him iconic. He was iconic in his lifetime.
Yeah, yeah, he was. He was larger than life, and that's probably one of the reasons he's not around anymore.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
somebody like Buddy Holly,
I
like
know. What would have happened to
body
him?
of work. What funny thing about Buddy Holly is when I hear like a Linda Ronstadt version of a Buddy Holly song or a James Taylor version,
Sure.
I like their versions better than his. And but like if I went and listened to Buddy Holly's catalog, I wouldn't be inspired to rework them. But
Right.
then when I hear the the versions like James Taylor's version or Linda Ronstadt's, I'm saying, wow, that they had the ability to recognize a great song in
Mm.
there, and you know, but
Speaking
his, I'm sure his body work would be incredible if he would have lived.
speaking of bodies of work that would have been incredible if they lived, and that one song situation, our chat calls out Dwayne Allman, who died at 24. Excellent. Um,
24. Wow.
yeah, but for me, in the same crash that killed Buddy Holly, I think we lost someone else who was going to be amazing because at Richie Valens died in that crash as well,
Right. Right.
and he had already released La Bamba, which basically invented Chicano rock. Like he more or less established what would become Carlos Santana and guys like that. Um, and he had done that beautiful, beautiful doo-wop hit Odana.
Right. Do
And
you know whose seat he took on the plane?
I do. It was. Oh, I just recently read this. Because because he was it like Dan Lenoir or something? Who was it?
It was a country singer.
Oh,
Somebody
wait, not Chris Christopherson, but a guy like that, Waylon Jennings.
older. Yeah.
It was
Yeah. I
Waylon
think it,
Jennings
yeah. I
who
mean,
was
but then
playing
had
guitar for
he
them.
not gone on, that then we would have not had all Waylon Jennings music. So,
I know.
you
So
know,
that's why that's the day the music died. But check it out. Do you know how old Richie Valens was when he died?
I think he was like 20 or 21, wasn't he? Or
17.
17.
He was
Wow. Yeah.
17 years old, and he'd
Wow.
already done that. We got Dan Fogelberg called out as one of the greats. I like Dan Fogelberg.
Yeah. Tom Hampton's a huge Dan Fogelberg guy.
Yeah,
We
I
were
think
playing a show the night he died, and
Doc
my
Rock in my chat says Lowell George of Little Feat is one of his favorite songwriters.
yeah.
I don't know a ton of Little Feat, but everything I've heard
I
is
don't, but man,
good.
Little Feet fans are the most diehard fans.
Yeah, yep,
You know,
definitely. And then he says on Dwayne Allman, they don't know how many songs he's actually on because he would show up at studios all the time and play uncredited on people's records without asking for credit.
is he who? I think you know that piano section at the end of Layla.
Oh,
I think that might.
that wasn't Dwayne. That was a guy who was in the
Oh,
studio next door. I'm trying to remember. Doc probably knows this story.
it's a great piano part. It might have been. What's that guy's name? I think he might have just died.
Malesic says, "Oh, well, this was an obvious one. We haven't talked about Leonard Cohen."
Oh yeah, he's great. I mean that song. The one that everyone does, Hallelujah. That's just a perfect song. That falls into the category of a perfect song.
I agree, and I think that's a
It's
very
like,
small category.
yeah, yeah, but it's just unfortunately been overdone too many times. Too
I
many people
agree.
do that song. It's just
However, I'd be curious to know. So I have a version of that song that I think is the definitive version, and I'm
that you
curious.
do.
I do. No, no, not
Okay,
mine. Not mine. Just
okay,
a version that I believe that was done by someone
right.
else. And I think the definitive version of that song, although I like Rufus
Jeff
Wainwright's a
Buckley.
lot, it's Jeff Buckley.
Yeah,
Jeff Buckley
Jeff
is
Buckley's
a
pretty good.
contender for my number one songwriter of all time, and another
And
one
there's
where,
another one. What would his career have been
yeah,
had he not?
because you saw how
But
wild his father's career had been, how many
yeah,
paths and twists and turns his father took.
man, these troubled souls that
Yeah.
you know.
But speaking of the power of songs, though, like I don't know that I would, I wouldn't trade with those guys. I don't think.
No, no, no.
If you had the
That's
choice to live a long life of being like well regarded by people who found your music, but not this deathless legend icon, or
right.
to write one great song, I think if you had asked me that question, you know what? I'm going to ask you that question and then I'll tell you my answer. What
Okay.
if you could have been in your prime and someone had walked over and said, "I can grant you a wish. You can write an album or something like that that's going to just change the world forever and no one will ever stop talking about it, but you're going to die young." What would you do?
No, I'd probably would have stayed longevity, you know.
If you had
I was
asked
already
me,
told when I was 19, I was told I had 3 months to a year to live. So I've been given that part of the option and didn't much care for it. So
it
I'll
was a funny
pass on
thing.
it.
So it's kind of the same for me.
So how about you?
If you had asked me that question when I was 18 years old, I would have probably taken the deal.
Right.
If you'd asked me that question
Yeah.
when I was, I might have taken the deal.
Yeah.
But I got married when I got married. I was 31. I was 31 when I got married, and
Right.
I think that it from around the time I proposed, everything was different.
Yep, yep.
I
Because you're two then. You're not one
Yeah,
anymore.
having something to live for besides myself. I don't think I would have. I certainly wouldn't take that deal now. I have, and I have also actually been given. I've been given my death marching orders once in my life as well. It was
There
not.
you go.
It was not something I enjoyed, and mine was a violent thing. I was jumped and beaten half to death,
Oh man.
and
Yeah.
there was like swelling in my brain and a fracture in my skull, and they weren't sure I was
Yikes.
coming out of it, and
Well, I'm glad
I
you
don't want to
made
face
it.
that again. Yeah, yeah,
No, no.
don't want to
You know
face that
that
again.
I can understand that. A lot of these guys that like Jeff Buckley hit. It's like the thing they're doing that brings them the fame. They're so driven to do it, but they so don't want the fame
Yeah,
that it ends up destroying them. Like
yeah,
somebody like I don't know how familiar you are with Jerry Rafferty. You
yeah.
know,
Baker Street.
his stuff. What's it? Yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
Baker Street. Um, but he's a prolific song, great. But he did so much to sabotage his career. He didn't want the fame, and that's why if you ever that he was in that band Steelers Wheel.
Right,
That
right. Stuck in the
down to the left
middle with
and
you.
yeah, stuck
Yeah.
in the middle of you. If you watch that video, he didn't show up at the so somebody his bandmates lip syncing the song, and it's just he wanted no part of fame, and
I
but
wanted it
there's
for a long time. I feel differently about it now. I just want to not worry about whether or not I can keep my head above water. That's all I really want from this these days,
yeah,
I think.
that if your car is sabotaged and you need to get a new one, that you don't have to worry about it.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That the benchmark of success for me is just having a good life and being able to take
Yeah.
care of my wife, and
Same here.
that's it.
I'm
That's enough.
we have the opportunity to be able to do what we do in front of a live audience, and that's pretty cool.
It is. It's really
There's some
cool.
people that would just kill to do that. And
What's a song of yours that you I would say very proud of? If I wanted to direct the viewers on my chat over on Twitch to check out what would you recommend to be their first like studio version of a Dan May song?
um, you know, for me, I mean, the things, the songs that are the most popular and that sell the most CDs are not my personal favorites
Same.
to listen to, but I mean, I like performing them, and I like I mean, I'm
The
touched
crowd
that
energy
people
is
are
great.
touched. Yes, and that people. I have a song called "One More Time" that has been played at so many funerals, and that makes me, it touches me because it means something. But the song that I think of mine that I like listening to personally is Sister Rain. I
Sister
like that
Rain.
song. It's something about that song. I think it's my backup vocalist Heather sings on it, and our voices just blend really well on that one.
I'll have to. I've heard that one. I'll have to listen to it
Yeah,
again with that in mind. But I've listened to
yeah.
that one. I like it a lot myself. It
Thank
probably
you.
would have been a contender for the one I would have brought up. And
How about
then,
you? What?
ooh, I don't know. Maybe it's because it's indicative of where I'm going. I would say
I like your Bowerbirds song, by
that
the
one's
way.
been played at a lot of weddings.
Yeah, really. Yeah.
Yeah, and the first time it was played at a wedding, I was very caught off guard because I was at it. Um, I was performing at a wedding, doing like in moonlighting in a cover band, just to make some money. And this couple had, unbeknownst to me, between hiring my band and their wedding, had become big fans of my music. And I didn't know that, and they didn't tell me that. But we get to the thing, and we're at this wedding, and then they did a whole flash mob thing,
Oh,
like
right, right.
with a
Of
dance,
one of your songs.
and like there were like streamers and confetti and like choreography, and I was just like I was at the wedding performing, and then they had talked to my band leader about this ahead of time, like I hadn't been prepared, but they'd come up to me and they'd been and gone like, okay, well, go talk to your band leader, and I'd went over to my band leader Martin, and he'd been like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna play your song." What are you talking about? We're gonna do your song Bowerbirds. They asked us to do that, and I went, I mean, I know it, but do you guys know it? And they were like, yeah, we know it. And so
Very
I
cool.
normally do that with the Great Enough, and there's four guys, and the band I was in was eight guys, and like extra instruments. There was like a saxophone and a piano and all this other stuff, and I was just like, what's this going to be like? And it actually was wonderful, but it was really surreal. But Bowerbirds is probably what I'd recommend as the first song to check out. It's by my
That's a good
band, The
one.
Great Enough.
Yeah.
Or if you want to hear my solo stuff, which is quite different, I would say my solo song, How We Live and Die, which is a really like mournful kind of indie rock thing.
Yeah, and as far as like playing, there's things that I like to hear the recorded version of, and then things that I like to play live, and that varies too, because some
Yeah.
things that you achieve in the studio can't be achieved live. And
Yeah,
it's just
I
that's a tricky one.
The Great Enough has a song called Never Run Away, which to my chat's calling me out. A lot of my songs are about my wife. That's totally true. A lot of my songs are about Mel, and this one was about our wedding. But in this song, I hit a C#5, full voice, like full belt, and that
Okay,
was for me. That's like no, like not. And there's just A's all through the whole song is just A, and I'm
right.
that's high for me. And when we did it in the studio, I was like, we should change the key. And they were like, no, it's gonna be great. It's gonna be great. And they all told me, you can hit this note, you can hit this note, and I said no, there's no way. And it was like that Def Leppard made for TV movie Hysteria, where they have that scene where the actor playing the producer is just like, get in the studio and do it, you got this, and he was just like, no, I don't, but then he did. It was exactly like
Right.
that. I sing this crazy high note in the song, and then when we do the song live, I'm always like terrified getting toward it because everyone in the audience has come to expect it, and
Yeah,
it's
it's
horrifying.
my the first record I wrote, first two records I wrote, I had no intention or inclination that I'd be performing them live.
Right.
So I go back to the Fates That Never Mind album and the Once Was Red, and they're too high for me now,
Mm.
and I'm 61 now, and your voice kind of settles a bit, but certain songs don't work transposed. You can't take it down a half step or a step.
Right.
It just doesn't have the same magic. It's just sometimes it's that timbre that your voice achieves at that in that key. Because I've tried dropping that one song down a half step and something's missing from it. And but man, there's some songs that are really rough for me to sing.
Yeah.
I'm sure
I
you
yeah.
run into that too.
Well, that song "Never Run Away," we so when we were opening for the Wallflowers on a gig, and so like I felt the pressure on already,
Right.
um, and it was like 100 degrees out, and it was an outdoor festival gig, and we did that song "Never Run Away," and I had the note that day. I knew I was going to have it. I could feel it. I could feel that I was having a good vocal day,
Right.
but it does require a certain push to hit what is the highest note in your range, as you know. Um, Especially if you're going to hit it healthy and not like pinch your vocal cords or something like that to get it. Um, so I sang the note, and it's got to be held for a little bit too. And at the end of the note, I literally fell. Like I just fell. I barely caught myself on the monitors. I almost fell right off the stage. And after the show, a bunch of people who knew us and even people who didn't, they were coming up to the merch table, and a few people thought that it was like a drama acting moment.
Right. Right. Right.
They were like, "Oh, that was so like over the top," and some people loved it, but some people were making fun of me, and I was like, "Yeah, it was acting, sure." And then I turned to my wife, and she's like, "That wasn't acting. Your vision went black, and you almost fainted, right?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's what happened."
Yeah. Well, fortunately, I had like a dozen years of vocal training by some of the best singers in the world, so I was able to. I'm able to overcome that with my technique sometimes.
Yeah.
That I'm able to sing them from technique alone. Because if you don't have technique, you're gonna grab it with your throat and things like that.
Uh
But
huh. Uh
it's
huh.
it's a different kettle of fish singing opera and singing. That's why you don't see a lot of former opera singers, especially guys.
Well, that's another reason.
But
Check out Charlotte Martin. She began
she
as an opera
was,
singer.
yeah. There are more females. It's a little bit more. I think a little easier maybe to
Yeah,
make that
maybe.
transition for women.
I came out of
But
theater personally.
yeah.
Yeah.
Did you when you were in high school? Did you do like the musicals and stuff like that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Do you still have do you still enjoy that kind of stuff?
Yeah, yeah. I produced a musical in college,
Oh,
and,
cool.
and put it on, and I still am a huge fan of that kind of thing. It's a very different kind of singing. You approach every note so differently as a singer songwriter or a rock singer or whatever
Yeah.
than you would as a theater singer. Even when it's something that's comfortably within your range. But doing, I did shows like I did the show the last 5 years once, and I've been in Rent a bunch of times because I get cast as Roger in Rent, which surprises no one who knows anything about Rent. Um,
Did you do some of the like classics like Camelot or
I've
Music
done
Man
I've
or
done Showboat.
the Music Man?
I never did the
Did you do
Music
that?
Man. I love the Music
Okay.
Man though. I
How
did the
about
classics. I did. I
Fiddler
did.
on the Roof? Did you ever do that one?
I did Fiddler. I did Fiddler. I did
Yeah.
Showboat. I did The Sound of Music. I did Hello Dolly and things like that. And Hello Dolly was a kind of a funny one because I was initially cast in a side role because I went to the audition sick and they thought I couldn't sing, and then
Right.
they found out in the first
What
rehearsal
was
that I could.
your role? What did you?
At first I was paper hanger
Okay.
because they thought I couldn't sing, but then I did. Oh my God, what is his name? Is it? Which is it's one of the two main guys, and I can't remember which one was which. I played the
The
guy.
two guys. Yes, New York. It's really us, Barnabas and Cornelius. You're
Right,
Barnabas and
right,
Cornelius.
right. So
Yeah.
I was Cornelius. Who's the one who sings?
It only takes a moment.
Yes, that one.
Yeah.
I,
Okay.
I
I
this
think
was.
that's
I think it's Cornelius.
Cornelius. Yeah. But
Yeah,
those are
because
good.
because he's got there's a slick town Barnaby. Yeah, okay, it's Cornelius. I was Cornelius
Yeah.
because I can
There's
remember singing the other guy's name.
in the soundtrack, the record of that. There's a duet in the big Hello Dolly piece that like the culmination of the
Right.
it builds up to the whole Hello Dolly scene where she does a duet with um Louis Armstrong
Yep.
that is so good. I
So
mean,
good.
I would when I was a kid, I would put that on and I would play it over and over, lift up it was a record, and I'd play that. There's that give and take between the two of them where they're doing it's counter melodies. They're
Yes.
doing these counter melodies, not harmonies so much, but there's
Just
harmonies
counterpointing
within
each other.
yeah, it's just phenomenal. I was always wanted to be a fly on the wall at that session to find out whether they did that live as they were filming it, whether they did it
I
because
would
I'm
believe it
guessing a
was
lot of
live.
it was it. Maybe it was. You wonder whether the quality would be there, but I guess it doesn't look like lip syncing, does it? But
Not to me, no.
man, that's a great. You know the piece I'm talking about. I remember it was my favorite. It's
Yeah.
just such a
And
cool thing where
and
they
she's one of those singers. She's like a singer. Like if you know technique, if you're trained at all, and you can kind of pick apart what Barbara Streisand is capable of, and you
yeah
just you got your jaw just
yeah
drops.
she's fabulous, absolutely. Oh.
um,
Well, that's great. I'm glad that you like musicals. That's cool.
well, and
I think it
sometimes
balances you as a songwriter and as a performer.
yes. My
You know,
my
there's
friend,
this
do you know Jay
something.
Levin?
I know the name. I think he's a Facebook friend of
Yeah,
mine, but
yeah,
I
he's
don't
a
know
he's a
that I
studio guy.
know him.
He's of the
Yeah.
opinion that it's very difficult for musical songs, like theater songs, to be great songs out of the context of their show. I don't think I agree with that.
There certainly have been many
Yeah,
of them.
yeah.
That I think there's songs that he would hear that he didn't even know that they were from musicals.
Yeah,
You know,
Sinatra's got a handful of those.
yeah, there's a bunch of them that
Luck
are
Be a
from.
Lady.
There's just so many great
It
songs.
luck a lot of people don't know that Luck Be a Lady is not it wasn't written as to be a song, it was written to be part of a musical. Like it wasn't written
Right,
standalone, it was written for guys and dolls.
right, absolutely. Did
And
you? What'd you think of Hamilton? Did you like that?
I'm a huge fan of Lin-Manuel Miranda. I loved Hamilton. I think it was a
See, I didn't know
triumph.
what to expect. I was a bit reluctant, but man, I really, really enjoyed it.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
We knew going in that we were gonna like it because I have one of my theater professors also taught Lin Manuel, and so when I was in college, we got brought to see one of his previous shows during the previews week, and we got to meet Lin Manuel Miranda.
Oh, cool.
And so like right from then, when I'd seen his show In the Heights, which I also highly recommend, it's beautiful. I'd already been exposed to the Lin Manuel Miranda thing, which it's its own thing just as much as Andrew Lloyd Webber is his own creature or Stephen
Right.
Sondheim is his own creature. And Andrew Lloyd Webber was my gateway drug, by the way, the thing that got me into musical theater because I was a rock and roll kid. Star.
Well, I'll tell you, um, one of the great vocal performances ever is what's the guy's name that plays Judas? Murray
Oh,
Head.
Murray Head, yeah.
It's just that performance
Mm-hmm.
is nobody's ever been able to equal
Nope.
that. It's just
The guy in the movie was
unfreaking
good.
believable.
The guy in the movie was good, but he was
Yeah,
not
he
as
was
good.
pretty good.
He was not
Yeah,
as
I don't
good.
remember who he was.
For
I don't remember the name of the
Carl,
guy, but
Carl
oh
something.
right, it was Carl something.
I can't remember his
But
last name.
that
I want to say Carl
recording is
Winslow
so
or
good.
something like that, but I could be wrong.
But I mean, when in the reprise of "I Don't Know How to Love
Mm-hmm.
Him," where Judas
Just
sings that,
crushed. And,
oh my God,
it's
it's like
destructive.
if
That's
you
my
could,
dream role.
if your soul could sing.
Yeah, that's my dream role. If I
Yeah,
could play any
well, it
role,
would
I'd
be
play
mine
Judas.
too, but I couldn't pull it off
No, but
vocally.
you'd be a good Javert in Les
I'd do
Miserables.
Caiaphas probably.
Yeah, they'd cast you as Caiaphas. See,
Yes,
I
they
did
would.
Caiaphas once because I can get down to
Yeah.
those notes. Good Caiaphas, you know.
All right.
But you'd also be a good Javert. I think you've got the range for a Javert in
Well, from what's that
From Les Miserables.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, the
That's
main
I've seen
villain.
that all the productions of that I've seen were high school
It's
productions.
definitely not Carl Winslow. That's the dad from Family Matters.
Uh, we
on
lost a little weight before that.
on the topic of Family Matters and on Songcraft, right now
Oh,
I am currently in the middle of having been. So you said sometimes you do commission work. I'm doing a commission
right.
piece right now for a YouTube channel in Vancouver, and they called me and they said, "Can you do a really convincing style parody, not a direct parody, but a
Right.
style parody of a composer named Jesse Frederick?" And Jesse Frederick wrote all of the TGIF TV show theme songs from my childhood. So
Huh.
Full House and Family Matters and Step
Right.
by Step and all those songs. And so they reached out to me and they were like, you know that song where he's like, whatever happened to predictability? And I was like, yeah, I know that song. And they were like, we want a thing that's kind of like that. So I've spent the last week with a guy named Brian Fitzy, who you may also know or know of.
I don't know him, no.
He's the best violin player like alive. It's
Okay.
gross. And he's one of those guys. He's you said the ultimate sideman.
Yeah.
He's by himself all of the ultimate sideman. He plays a dozen instruments at an expert level. He's just one of those guys where it just seems unfair,
All right.
you know. But anyway, I spent the last week with him putting together a TV jingle about condos in Vancouver.
There you go.
Ain't that a thing?
That is a thing. um, speaking of those songs, I have a song that I didn't know it, but there's a little excerpt of what is the song that goes everywhere you look,
Everywhere it's called Everywhere You Look.
at the end of my song, what's the name of it? I'll find it here. In New York in fall, I'm right on time. I'm saving you a place in line.
Oh, but you hit that vocal motif, like you hit those
No,
notes.
there's I think I was recording it at Morningstar and it was all session guys. I didn't have a band per se at the time.
I love
So
working with Dave over at Morningstar. He's so
he's
talented.
great. Yeah. Anyway, this song it's called Missing You Love Me.
Okay.
So when you write that down and see if you can spot that little, it's not a sung thing. It's just as the song goes out. I think the chorus has that melody lying underneath it. But it's one of those things you don't realize at the time
That's
that
so
you're
cool.
writing it. That but then like the other night we were playing it and somebody started singing that. What is it? Full House or is it
That's Full
Family?
House.
Full House,
Yeah.
yeah. So listen to that
Family
since
Matters
you're
is
a
the
fan of the.
Family Matters sounds just like it. Family Matters is the other one. It's the one that goes, "As days go by." That one
Yeah, yeah.
is the deeper love of the. Yeah, I've
There's
been.
so many great
He's a
theme songs.
tremendous songwriter. That guy. He
Yeah,
really is.
yeah.
He's really great. It's such a crafts thing. And
Well, my Anthony Newitt, he produced my first two albums, and he's in the band now, and we collaborate a lot. But we want to do a show of television theme songs.
oh man, call me. I'm
So you
in.
ought to join us. We
I'm
should do
in.
it as a trio,
I'm in.
and we
I
could
know them all
include because
already.
yeah, that would be fun. I'll hit the ones from the '60s and '70s, and you can hit the '80s and '90s
Right,
and
like I'll do the Friends
2000s.
theme and the Scrubs
Right.
theme, and yeah, I got
So
you.
you're in on that.
Sure. That's not an idle. That's not an idle thing. I'm actually in. I'll do it.
No, no, and I don't throw it out there idly. Now that I
Yeah,
know your pedigree in that regard,
it's gonna be a lot of fun. That sounds like a
that would
blast.
be yeah.
All right, I got one last question before we say goodnight
Okay.
for the night, and it's more of
This
a
has been a lot of fun. This has been just me and you talking. I'm sorry for people listening that we maybe,
I. That's what they signed up for. That's just what we do on
yeah,
Monday
but
nights.
I really enjoyed it. This is fun. This won't be the last time.
No, not at
We may
all.
not have an audience the next time we talk, but
I mean, listen, we've actually
we got
had
a lot of
pretty
ground
high.
to cover.
We've had pretty high
We're-
viewership. I bet you. I think we've been. I think people have been amused. Which doesn't
I've been
surprise me because
spoiled
you're an
by my
amusing
online
guy.
shows. I've been spoiled by my online shows that we've been getting like 250, which
Oh,
is
that's
pretty good
great.
numbers. I gotta say, I've been
We got our mind was
oh,
blown. We did one. The Great Enough did one from Turtle Studios, and we had like 30 tune into one of the to
that's
it at
just
once, and I was
that's. I
just
mean,
like,
I've
I
seen
don't
some
even.
national acts
I
trying to
don't
pull
even
it off.
understand how it happened.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
mind blowing, and it was never less than a couple hundred people at a time tuning into it, and it
Yeah,
was
that's
like,
great.
and it was long. Like we were there for a good long while. It was mind blowing.
People
But
like turtles, is what it is.
people like turtles. I like turtles.
I
Turtles a
love
good studio
turtles,
too.
man.
That's Jay Levin's studio. He owns and operates
Okay.
Turtle with. I actually just did a thing. I just did a thing there recently. Me and a couple of guys I know all kind of from around the country. We just did a tribute to Johnny Nash.
Oh, okay.
So we
Oh, I can see clearly now. They just
exactly,
yeah,
yeah. So
I
we're
did
going to
a
be dropping
tribute
that
to-
in a couple of maybe less than a couple of weeks, probably, but
That's
probably a
cool.
couple of weeks.
I think I've seen his name in the Philadelphia recording
Yeah,
community
you would.
website.
He's
Yeah, yeah.
I, great
Didn't
guy.
he have like
Highly recommend him.
his his uh his profile picture was like an animation or a
Yes,
drawing or
yes.
something for a long time.
It's called a Bitmoji.
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah.
That's that's more tech illiterate stuff though, right? You said you're kind of tech illiterate.
I'm very much. Oh, speaking of that, I should probably ask you this off the air, but do you use the OBS
That's
thing?
you're on it right now.
Okay, because I'm learning to do that's for the 5 minutes. 5 minute story time with Coop and Dan at 7:45. I'm learning that OBS
I'm using
thing right
OBS
now.
to transmit you through to my audience right now.
Yeah, so that's
So
what I'm going to be using.
I'm running
Is it
Zoom, OBS, a thing called
so you have like an
Pretzel, a thing
iOS
called
on your
Loopback.
phone or
Yeah.
something? Or?
I'm on a computer. I'm doing it from a desktop.
Okay.
But you
Okay.
can do it directly from your phone. Check out an app called. You can get an app on your phone called Streamlabs.
Streamlabs?
That's kind of an all-in-one. It's a little OBS because it's open source.
Yeah.
Streamlabs is owned by Amazon, and they've endeavored to make it a little simpler.
Okay.
it's essentially the same thing.
It is complicated.
Yeah, it's essentially the same thing, but you can totally check out Streamlabs, and I'll happily
Okay.
dude, I'll you can Zoom chat with me sometime, and I'll kind of walk you through the
I
steps.
would
Happy to.
appreciate that
Yeah.
because I occasionally get to a couple things and I'm just not even sure what the terminology is referring to. So, what was your last question?
My last question was because some of my audience are themselves aspiring songwriters, and as a guy who's proven that you can do it, that you can make a living at it, that you can hone it.
Right.
What's step? Let's not step one necessarily, but what's like step two? Because most of these guys are already writing songs. But what would you tell them? Like, okay, you're sitting there and you're writing songs and you're writing songs, and you don't know what to do with them next. What do you do after you've written a song if you think it's good?
I think the one thing that the mistake people make is that they record the song and then step back and wait for something to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Not gonna happen. You
Never.
got to make it happen. You've got to establish relationships with people in radio and venues and you really do. I mean, I've had a very fortunate relationship with
Yeah,
WXPN. It's
Helen's been
been
amazing to us too.
she's been very good to me. But I mean, speaking for you and for me, the product's good. I mean, you got to the step two is also being honest with yourself. You don't get the opinion of your family and friends because they're going to tell you you're great, but it's you got to get sometimes some harsh critiques on your stuff, and because if it's not good, it's not going anywhere. It's got to be good.
Yeah.
um but to take the efforts to get it heard. I mean, it's like people that do shows and they do nothing. They think just putting it on Facebook is enough.
It's not
That
enough.
it's not enough. That's a lot of work that comes into getting bodies in
Mm-hmm.
the seats.
Yeah, what we
And
do is maybe 5% songwriting.
yeah, I know there's that's the 5% is it might be a
It's
tad high, but
Yeah, and it's
it
maybe the
takes a lot
hardest
of
few percent, but
legwork.
it's the
Yeah,
legwork is it's that
right.
grind. It's that
Yeah,
finding the people that you trust to give you feedback, and then
that's right.
convincing people to take a chance on you, and that feels insurmountable sometimes.
And
Um,
also not taking rejection personally in any way.
Correct.
You know,
Um, I guess this is Mr. Muller posting from Janet
yeah,
Herbalich's account. Says step
right.
one is have talent.
Yes, that's right. You
I
got to
don't I
have
don't
talent.
actually agree with that. I think I don't think that that's a necessary step. I
Talent to be
think
taught.
I don't know that you need to have a natural gift. I think it is possible to just I think it can be taught. I do.
You, I think it can be the songwriting. The craft can be taught.
Yes.
I think you have to possess some sort of something else.
I
I mean, you,
think I think
I
being
don't know what
willing
that
to do that level
intangible
of
is.
yeah, yeah. But I think
Yeah,
being willing to do an astronomical amount of work to become good is a kind of talent unto itself. You know?
yeah.
Because Billy Joel will tell anyone, he's told people his entire life, anyone who would listen, he doesn't think of himself as a good singer or a naturally gifted singer at all, but he's
Or
worked
piano player
or
either.
right,
He
but he's
doesn't think he's
worked
a good.
his ass off. Now,
Yeah.
of course, I think I don't know. I can't imagine him not being considered one of the great piano players of our time.
Well, I heard
But it's
if you
work.
get a chance, listen to his interview with Alec Baldwin. Alec
Mm-hmm.
Baldwin has a podcast called "Here's the Thing," and there's a great interview with Billy Joel, and he gets down to the nitty gritty about his playing, and because he says he only plays with it's his right hand guy, and his left hand is just
Doing
hitting
this.
the bass.
Yeah, his left
It's
hand just
just
does this all day.
yeah. Sometimes it's just the thumb on the bass, but
Mm-hmm.
the
I mean,
bass
I
note.
can't play much. I can't play much at all. I'm like at my best. I'm maybe 70% of a Paul McCartney on piano.
Yeah, yeah. That's like that reminds me of that. Somebody asked. I don't know whether the
Good
question
night.
you might know the answer. The
I might.
question was to um, whether they thought it was either to Lennon or McCartney, and they said, "Is do you think Ringo's the best drummer in the world?" And his answer was, "He's not even the best drummer in the band."
He's not. Paul McCartney played drums in a lot of those
Right.
songs.
And I'm sure there's a lot of Ringo fans that will disagree with you, but that's one of
Yeah.
those quotes that's kind of.
Yeah, and then
But
also
anyway,
there's the rumor that Bernard Purdy actually played a lot of those drum tracks for Ringo, and Ringo didn't know.
Bernard Purdy, he's on that. There's a inside the album, The Making of Asia,
Yeah.
and he's talking about where he has that sign that's "You done it, you done hired the
Hmm.
best."
Yeah.
He has that
Yeah.
little sign there.
Yeah. Well,
But anyway,
Bernard's my drummer's teacher, so we've actually like gotten to sit down and chat with him.
oh, there you go.
He's a funny guy and he's got a lot of great stories, which
That's
we'll
great.
probably unpack next time we do this.
Yeah. Well, it's
Yeah.
been great talking to you, man.
You
I've
as well,
enjoyed it.
and
Yeah,
thank
yeah.
you, and to anyone watching, thanks to Dan May and for coming. Dan May, I know you got some fans watching right now. They've been talking in the chat a bunch.
Good.
I really appreciate you taking some time to hang out with me today. A lot. Thank you so much.
My pleasure, Bright. Have a good night. See ya.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, let me bring my camera back up over here. That was a riot. Um, that actually, I thought that was really interesting. What did you guys think of Dan there? Um, Dan is just one of those guys, man. He's really talented and he's really interesting. And if you're into that kind of like folky singer songwriter thing, not many guys do it better. And also just a great writer, great storyteller. Feel free to check him out. He said to list. I listed in the chat. Sister Rain was what he said he'd like to be the first Dan May song you checked out. Um, and I definitely recommend doing that. What's news in the brightest sphere? We've raised like $1,300 toward the car, which is amazing. I want to thank everybody who's been sharing the GoFundMe and helping get us toward that. That's incredibly kind of you. I'll at some point probably repost that again on Facebook or something like that, and you guys can help signal boost. Thursday, I don't have it in front of me to remember off the top of my head what the Thursday theme is. I don't remember what I set up for this theme. Oh yeah, thank you, Joe Maskey. We're talking about the Patreon drive, and somebody check Discord for the pinned post in the Discord about what the next theme is because it's gone from my head and I don't have it in front of me. We are doing a Patreon drive. We have 26 patrons on Patreon right now, and it's a blast over there. If we can get to 50, it's as little as $2 a month, $3 a month, all the way up to $50 a month, kind of whatever you feel like you can spare or what perks you want. But you can join Patreon at brightkelly.me/join, which is in the chat right now. And I'll put it in the chat over on Facebook as well for anyone who still happens to be watching, which actually is a bunch of you. Thank you. brightkelly.me/join. That's my Patreon where I create content. There's poetry and webcomics and there you go. It's the Patreon Pick Show. So if you are currently a Patreon member, tell me what song you want to hear on Thursday and tell me tonight so I have time to work on them, please. And I'll be playing a Patreon Pick Show. So that is the perfect dovetail. And if we can reach 50 patrons total, I'm gonna release an acoustic lo-fi cover album to coincide with the EP that I'm nearing the finish line on, and I'm gonna do a little book of poetry for the 50 patrons to celebrate. I like half remembered. That's true. So there's a lot of perks for patrons if we can get to the 50, and also if you join Patreon, say now tonight, you can make a Patreon pick for the Patreon Pick Show. I'm only going to be honoring requests from patrons this week. And let's say if you are above the lower tiers, if you are above Patronus, give me a short list. Actually, everybody, give me a couple. Give me everyone in Patreon. Give me 3 to 5, and I'll pick the ones that I think are going to put together a great show, and we'll have a lot of fun with that. But yeah, that does dovetail perfectly. So the Patreon Pick Show coinciding with the Patreon Drive to try to reach 50. So help me share that and get that out of there, because 50 patrons is the biggest first milestone. And once we hit 50, it's going to start to snowball. And that would be amazing, because I don't want to have to go. I don't want to have to do something else for a living. I want to do this for a living. This matters to me. Doc, I will make sure to tell him that he was thinking of Jim Gordon. And yeah, Joe, I've got your Killer 7, but put them in the Patreon feed on Discord for me again. But yeah, it's a great time to join Patreon if you're interested in doing that. And you'll immediately unlock, I think, around 50 posts are already live, and for the 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 or 25 or whatever you want to spend dollars tonight, you could unlock all of those and get your chance to help shape Thursday's show. Yeah, that's it for me, I think, you guys. Little music under us while we're talking. All right. I'm going to be doing a Sadie webcomic, and a new Dystopia University thing are coming out soon as well. And the newest Sadie comic is now up on Tapas Comics, which is where I'm serializing that. And let me grab that link for you guys as well. Here comes in the Twitch chat, and I'm sorry, Facebook chat, I can't throw it over to you guys right now because I can only do so many things, but it's tapas.io/series/Sadie if you want to check that out. Patrons, you've already seen all of these, but they're out for the public now. Thank you guys so much for hanging out for another Monday Method. Thank you to our guest, Dan May. Next week, we're going to be unpacking voice acting. We have a voice actor who's done some video game work joining us. His name's Antonio. The Academy ain't ever going to play me off. It's impossible to shake me. But next week, join us on the Monday Method for a little bit on voice acting. We're going to be unpacking what that's like. And I will see you on Thursday for the Patreon Pick Show. Thank you all so much for hanging out with me. My name is Bright Kelly, and I will catch you on the flip side.